The Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Lizzie A. Borden, a dramatic reading of the full trial transcript. Day 5, Friday, June 9, 1893, New Bedford, Massachusetts. The state was represented by the Honorable Hosea Knowlton and William H. Moody, Esquire. The defense was represented by the Honorable George D. Robinson, the Honorable Andrew J. Jennings, and Melvin O. Adams, Esquire. Part 1. Hosea Knowlton of the prosecution addresses the court.
If your honors please, Mr. Everett M. Cook, after leaving the witness stand, went home and found that one of his answers was incorrect, and has sent me a letter correcting it, which I have shown to counsel for the defense, and they agree with me that the substance of that letter may be treated as a correction of his answer provided, which I do not agree to, that the testimony is of material value. I will show it to your honors without argument, and if your honors think it is practically material in the case, I desire that the letter may be used as part of his testimony.
I was going to say that the question which was answered was asked by me, and was not objected to at the time. I asked if on the day of the murder if she had a deposit at the bank, subject to check, and he answered that she did not.
The court thinks that it is important that the testimony should be corrected so as to tell the truth. The materiality of it is determined by its being passed without objection.
I will read a portion of the letter.
Why not read the whole letter?
Oh, certainly. I was not going to read the Dear Sir.
Mr. Knowlton reads the letter.
First National Bank, Fall River, Mass., June 7th, 1893. Honorable H. M. Knowlton, New Bedford, Mass. Dear Sir, I hasten to correct a statement made by me in court this morning. I was asked if Miss Lizzie A. Borden had any money on deposit in the Trust Co., to which I replied I did not think she had, but I find upon consulting Mr. Arthur W. Allen, treasurer of the BMC Durfee Safe Deposit and Trust Co., that she had an account in said Trust Co., August 4th, 1892, and that her balance at close of business today, meaning that day, I presume, is $172.75. Should you desire my presence in court to testify to the same, will come over. Very respectfully yours, Everett M. Cook. Witness, Arthur W. Allen.
The defense resumes the cross-examination of prosecution witness Assistant Marshal John Fleet. Cross-examination by Mr. Robinson of the defense.
You recall, Mr. Fleet, that yesterday I asked you about your testimony given on the former occasion in the preliminary hearing?
Yes, sir.
When Miss Borden was committed to stand for trial in this cause?
I do.
And you remember yourself the occasion?
I do. Yes, sir.
That was an open hearing in the district court?
It was.
And counsel were present for Miss Borden, to wit, Mr. Jennings and Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir.
And that is the occasion you refer to?
I do. Yes, sir.
Have you since last night looked at the copy of your testimony at that examination?
No, sir.
Have not revised at all?
No, sir.
And therefore, you do not propose to make any different statement as to whether you gave the testimony to which I referred in the hearing? Perhaps my question is not plain. A little bit involved, I think. I ask you if in that hearing you stated that Miss Lizzie Borden told you that when her father came in, he appeared feeble, and she advised him to lie down on the sofa and assisted him to do it. Do you recall me asking you that?
I do.
And you said you did testify so?
I did.
And you now say so?
I say so, yes, sir.
Now, briefly, I want to classify your movements on that day, August 4th. Is it a fact that you arrived at the house before 12 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
And went there alone?
I did. That is, went in a carriage with another man.
And any other officer with you?
Not at that time, no, sir.
And do you know whether or not Mr. Allen had been there then? Officer Allen, I mean?
I did not, at that time.
Now, I want to know just where you went, and just what you did. All where you went from the time you went into the house on that first visit.
I went to the front door, tried the door, and it was locked.
Well, you went into the back door first?
Yes, sir.
Begin there, please.
I went to the back door and went into the house through the back entrance into the kitchen. From the kitchen to the sitting room, looked in the dining room, went upstairs into the room where Mrs. Borden was dead. From there, turned out, tried the door to the right.
Which was the clothes room?
The clothes press. I found that it was afterwards. I didn't know what it was then. Then went to the door of Miss Lizzie Borden. after talking with her.
Well, was the door open?
The door was closed.
And was it locked or not?
I couldn't say that it was.
And you went in there, if I recall it, and Mr. Buck was present?
Yes, sir.
And Miss Russell?
Yes, sir.
And Miss Lizzie?
Yes, sir.
Well, now, you had your first talk there with her?
I did.
And no officer was present with you then?
No, sir.
From that room, where did you go?
I went from that room back again downstairs in the sitting room, in the dining room, the kitchen, went upstairs, tried the door of Mrs. Borden.
You mean now you went up the back stairs?
The back stairs, went up in the attics.
You say you tried the door?
It was locked.
How did you find it?
It was locked.
That door was locked?
Yes, sir.
And that is the room of Mr. and Mrs. Borden, I understand?
Yes, sir.
Then what?
Then I went up in the attic, in Bridget's room.
Was that door locked?
No, sir.
You are sure about that?
I am pretty sure that it was not locked at that time.
Well, are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Then who went upstairs with you?
No one.
Very well. Go on.
I then tried the other doors and found them locked.
What door?
The doors west of the house, west rooms in the attics.
And how did you find that?
Locked.
Did you find any other doors which you tried?
Found the doors locked up there.
All of them?
Well, with the exception of Bridget's, and I think that room next to it, where there was a bed in it.
Was that locked?
I think not.
But you are very certain about Bridget's room, that was not locked.
I feel very certain about that.
Now what did you do?
I looked through there and came down and went in the cellar.
And all the time you were alone?
At that time?
Up to that time?
There were other officers going in and out and around the building.
But not with you?
Not directly with me.
You went to the cellar. Whom did you find in the cellar?
I found Officers Mullally and Devine in the cellar.
Yes. Anybody else?
Dr. Dolan was in the cellar at one time.
I'm not talking about that time. I'm talking of this time. I want to get this just right.
As I recall it, Officers Mullally and Devine were there.
And no other officer?
There might have been.
Well, I know that. Everybody can say that.
There was officers there, a good many officers in the cellar during the day, and I don't recollect.
Then you don't recollect whether there was anybody else there or not?
In the cellar.
No, I do not. Not at that time.
What, sir?
Not at that time.
Was Officer Doherty there?
Yes, sir. He was in the cellar.
He was?
At one time.
I mean at that time.
I could not say.
You did say before, didn't you?
Before when?
At the district court when you gave your other testimony.
If I did, I think that is about right.
What, sir?
If I did, I think that it is about right.
What is about right?
If I said he was there.
He was there?
He was there once when I was there.
If you said so once in the district court, he was there. He was there?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall whether you then stated at the former hearing that Mr. Devine was there?
I do not.
Is it true that he was not there?
It is not.
Not true. Well, I mean of your own recollection, not what he has told you.
I'm not talking about what has been told me at all.
In answer to the question, what did you find down cellar? I found Mr. Mullally, Mr. Doherty, and afterwards Mr. Dolan. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, together with other officers.
Well, you did not say so at the time, did you?
I did not, no, sir. I don't think I mentioned half the officers that were there.
That answers the question. You did not mention anybody else. Now, you were there with, as you give it now, Mr. Mullally and Mr. Devine. Tell me just what was done there at that time.
Mr. Mullally had some axes on the floor in the washroom of the cellar, and we examined them.
Will you bring those in, please, all of them? All you have, everything, all the exhibits of that kind.
An officer was sent out and returned with the previously identified axes and hatchets.
And I think you told us yesterday that Mr. Mullally had the 2 axes and the 2 hatchets?
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Not at that time.
Did you see where those came from?
I did not.
Where were they at the time that you saw them first?
In the cellar. Wash cellar.
Did you at that time learn from anybody where they were taken from?
I did, from Mr. Mullally.
And I ask you to tell me where he told you he found them.
I don't know that I did at that time, but I did afterwards find where they were taken from.
And where were they taken from?
The 2 small hatchets were taken from the middle cellar on the south side.
When you say middle cellar, I suppose you mean the middle room?
The middle room, yes, sir. The middle room of the cellar.
The 2 small hatchets were taken from there?
Yes, sir.
Where were the axes found?
I could not say just where, but in the back part of the cellar. I could not tell just where they were.
The back part of the same room?
Of the cellar. I think one was near a chopping block and the other I could not state just where he did say he found it.
Well, was the chopping block in that middle room?
It was in a passageway near the furnace.
And does the furnace stand, the furnace or steam heater you refer to, the same thing, I suppose?
Yes, sir.
Does that stand in that middle room of the cellar?
No, sir.
Where is it?
It is in the passageway leading between the cellars.
And going on a little farther west?
Yes, sir.
Toward the front of the house?
Yes, sir.
Then, if I understand you, the 2 hatchets were found in the same room where you found this one without a handle.
Yes, sir.
Do you know in what part of the room those 2 hatchets were found?
Near a chimney.
Well, was it near the same chimney where you found the handleless hatchet?
In the same box.
In the same box that you understood.
As I understood.
Mr. Robinson displays a blueprint of the Borden cellar.
In the middle room of the cellar. Can you see it from here?
Yes, sir.
Right in the same place or in the same box where you afterwards found them?
Yes, sir.
These 2 hatchets were found by Mr. Mullally.
That is as I understood it.
That is the way you understand it, and at that time, did you understand it then?
I understood where he found the hatchets as he showed them to me.
Yes, you understood then. Of course, at that season of the year, there was no fire in the steam heater?
No, sir.
And was there coal in the cellar?
There was.
Where?
On the west side of the cellar.
Were there any ashes there?
There was.
Where?
In the middle cellar.
And that is the same one where you found this box?
The box with the hatches in.
And how many ashes? I don't mean exactly in quantity, but something in regard to the quantity.
There might be 6 bushels.
6 bushels?
Yes, sir.
Evidently quite a pile.
Yes, sir.
And in what part of that middle room were those ashes?
On the southeast part of the room, more to the east than it would be to the west.
Would that be somewhere near the chimney?
Within a few feet.
So that the pile of ashes was right near, within a few feet of that chimney where the box was in which these hatchets were found and in which you found that one without a handle. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Were those ashes all dry ashes, a fresh pile, or the accumulations evidently of considerable many months or days?
I cannot say as to the months or days. There was an accumulation of ashes.
And those were ordinary ashes from fuel?
Yes, sir.
And did you notice whether they were coal or wood ashes?
Coal, I should say.
And was there in the cellar, in all the rooms, in any other place, an ashes pile that you saw?
I think there was.
Where?
Near the furnace.
Are you certain about that?
I am not.
As you recall it, then, you wouldn't be able to say to us this morning there were 2 different piles of ashes there.
No, sir. That is my impression as I look at it looking back only.
Can you place that second pile if there was one?
Yes, sir. It would be close to the coal bin.
If it was there, it would be...
It would be east of the coal bin and close to it.
It would be very close, then, to this other little room?
Yes, sir.
This opening to the furnace, the fire pot, faced the north wall of the house?
I don't know whether it faces to the north or west.
The furnace, you understood, was to warm the whole house, steam pipes connected with it, running to the radiators generally, and all the rooms through the floor.
Yes, sir.
You saw the radiators in the rooms above?
I don't recollect that I did.
You don't recollect?
No, sir.
You said that you took one of the hatchets and put it away?
Yes, sir.
And is this one with the claw head the one you put away?
It is, sir.
Where did you put it?
I put it in a cellar adjoining the wash cellar behind a box, boxes, and a keg, I think, was there, too.
That is something that looked like vinegar barrels there?
There were on one side.
It is the room right there underneath the cellar stairs as you come down, right round to the left?
Yes, sir.
And the water closet as you come downstairs is right along the front?
Yes, sir.
And as you turn around to your left, there is a room there in which several barrels were set up containing liquids, apparently that kind of barrels?
Yes, sir.
You put it in behind those barrels?
No, sir.
Tell me again just where you put it?
I put it behind where there was some boxes and a keg.
And that was on the...
On the south side of that cellar, southeast side of the cellar.
The southeast side of the cellar. That would be the corner towards the barn on the outside?
Yes, sir. Towards the southeast wouldn't be... It would be going from the barn.
Oh, yes. It is the southeast corner of that cellar, but the room is in that corner toward the barn. The cellar room?
Yes, sir. The east side of it is.
Yes, I understand. Now, did anyone see you put it there?
Officer Harrington.
Oh, he was there then?
Yes, sir.
You didn't tell us about that.
No, there's a good many things I haven't told you about.
There are?
Yes, as far as the officers are concerned.
Now, Officer Harrington was there. Can you give me any more? Stop right here.
Yes, sir. Some of the time, Officer Devine.
Well, you told me about that.
Officer Doherty, Officer Hyde.
Hyde was there.
Yes, sir, some of the time.
Have you ever mentioned him before?
Never that I know of.
Well, go on. How many more?
Officer Wilson.
You know I am talking about the first time now.
Oh, I am not talking about the first time. I am speaking of that afternoon. I was speaking about...
Oh, no. Now let us go back. I am talking about the first time. I began with you this morning in that way, you understand. Now, you are downstairs the first time, and you had no officer with you when you went down cellar the first time. Is that so?
That is right.
And you found whom down there the first time in the cellar? Keep your mind right on that.
I found Officer Mullally, Doherty, and I thought Devine, but I'm not sure about that at that time.
You are not now sure about that, about Devine?
At that time, no, sir.
Well, that is what I am meaning, that time. Did you find Officer Harrington there at that time?
No, sir.
Did you move this hatchet at that time?
No, sir.
Well, then, I do not ask about moving it at present, but you found this one with the handle gone at that time.
No, sir.
You did not?
No, sir.
What did you do the first time in the cellar?
Went down there and saw those Mullally stated before and went out into the yard.
Now that is all that was done the first time by you.
Yes, sir.
And how long were you out in the yard?
A few minutes.
Was that when you had an interview with Mr. Medley?
Yes, sir, and other officers.
Then what did you do?
I went in the barn.
When you were out in the yard at that time?
Yes, sir.
And did you go upstairs?
I did.
And alone?
I did.
Did you know whether anybody else had been in there before that or not, from your own knowledge?
I did not.
How many persons did you then see in the yard?
I could not just state how many. There were quite a number of officers.
It would be impossible for you to tell all the officers that you saw there at that time, I suppose.
Well, it would. They were coming and going.
Now, were there other individuals not officers there at that time?
There were, but I cannot recall them.
Well, do you recall Mr. Sawyer?
He was there at the back door.
And some name, Mr. Manning, I believe, has been mentioned at the same time. Was he there then?
He was at the front door when I went in the house.
I am now out in the yard after you had been in the house and come out again. Was Mr. Manning there?
Yes, sir, and Mr. Porter.
What Mr. Porter is that?
Reporter for the Fall River Globe.
A Mr. Porter who is a reporter.
Yes, sir.
Was Mr. Stevens or Stevenson there?
I don't recollect whether he was there at that time or not. He was there in the afternoon.
That there may be no uncertainty. I am told this Mr. Stevens was a reporter on the news.
Yes, sir.
Did you see Mr. Clarkson there at that time?
I did see Mr. Clarkson, but I thought it was later on in the day.
But you are not certain of that?
No, sir.
Did you see Mr. Donnelly, the hackman?
I saw him some part of that day.
And it may have been that he was there. You don't say that he was not.
Might have been.
You don't say that he was?
I don't recall that he was there at that time.
Now have you substantially given all that you have done from the time you first entered the back door until you went out and had completed that tour in the yard and in the barn?
Yes, sir.
Now where did you go next?
In the yard.
Finish up in the yard and then tell us where you went.
Had a conversation with the officers.
That I don't care about.
Mr. Morse and Bridget Sullivan.
Was that out in the yard?
No, sir. Mr. Morse I had some conversation with in the yard.
Bridget Sullivan in the house?
Yes, sir.
That is the second time you went in?
Yes, sir.
Now will you go from that time to tell me just what you did in the house the second time?
Went in the house, in the dining room with the two officers and Inspector Dexter.
One of the state officers.
State officers.
When did you first see Mr. Dexter?
After I had been through the house the first time.
Now pass on from there.
We then went upstairs and into Lizzie Borden's room again.
And then you had some officers with you, I think.
Two.
Mr. Minahan and Mr. Wilson.
He's dead.
And Mr. Wilson is on the force yet?
Yes, sir.
Then you had the second interview. And was Mr. Bowen there at that time at the door?
Yes, sir.
That is the time you spoke of.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, Mrs. Holmes and Lizzie were in the room?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
Not that I recall.
Now pass on. You need not state the conversation because that you have given already.
We came out of there and searched the closet and also looked into the room where Mrs. Borden was dead.
You searched the clothes closet, Miss Lizzie bringing you the key and going to unlock it?
Yes, sir.
Pass right on.
We then went downstairs and through the rooms downstairs, glancing through them, and got Bridget to get the keys, and we went upstairs into Mr. and Mrs. Borden's room. From there we went into the attics and looked through the rooms in the attics.
Bridget went with you with the keys to Mr. Borden's room up the back stairs?
Yes, sir.
And you went up again in the third story, the attic?
The attic, yes, sir.
How were the doors when you got there that time, as to locks?
The doors were locked, and Bridget unlocked the doors.
Was Bridget's room locked?
I could not say as to that.
Was the other sleeping room locked up in the attic?
I don't recall whether it was or not.
Did you go into the storeroom on the west end of the house?
I did.
Was that locked before you went in?
Yes, sir.
And do you now think, as you looked it over, that Bridget's room was locked at that second visit up there?
It might have been. I don't recollect. She had the keys and went upstairs and unlocked the door at this time.
Well, did you make searches in all these rooms?
Yes, sir.
What did you do?
Just looked around the rooms and moved things a little one side to see if we could see anything.
Did she have any trunk there?
Yes, sir.
Did you examine that?
No, sir.
Did not open it?
No, sir.
Did not ask to have it opened?
Yes, there was a trunk that we opened that was locked. I think. Bridget went and got the key.
I want to get this right now, Mr. Fleet.
We did look in a trunk.
Was it locked?
Yes, sir.
Did you ask her to unlock it?
Yes, sir.
Did you take out the things that were in the trunk?
I don't think we did.
Did you disturb them at all?
We just looked in there.
Well, looked in?
By lifting them up, that's all.
You did not find anything.
Nothing that we wanted.
Was there more than one trunk in the room?
I think there were.
Well, did you look into them all?
We looked into everything that we could look into, that is, just glanced over them. That is all.
You did not look very closely there, did you?
No, sir.
Didn't stay very many minutes in that room, did you?
No, sir.
Did you see in that room any dresses?
I think there was some clothing in one of the rooms.
Did you examine it?
Just looked at it. That is all.
Did you take it down to look at it?
No, sir.
Did you examine that clothing?
Not to take them down, but just looked at them.
Not to take them down, and you 3 officers were there making a search, wasn't you?
Yes, sir.
And you did not make a search up there.
Didn't we?
Did you?
Yes, sir.
Did, such as you described?
Yes, sir.
Was there any blood on Bridget's dresses?
On Bridget's?
That is what I asked you.
Not that I discovered.
You didn't discover it all.
I did not discover anything in the line of blood.
You did not really look for blood, did you, on her dresses?
No more than I did on any others.
That is not quite correct. Did you look for blood on Bridget's dresses?
I looked at Bridget's dresses.
Just tell the jury how you looked.
Just looked at the dresses as they were. Some were thrown on the bed.
Were they in the closet?
There were some in a closet.
Did you take them down?
I threw them on the bed, that was all.
Were there any grease spots on any of these dresses?
I can't say.
You did not look to see, did you?
Not very closely.
You could not tell today that there was or was not.
No.
Now, what did you really look at those dresses for?
To see if we could discover anything or any blood or anything on that.
You did. And yet you say you did not see anything at all. You didn't make a very thorough examination, did you?
No, sir.
How many dresses did she have, Bridget?
I don't know.
Well, give us some kind of an idea.
I could not.
Well, a dozen?
No, sir.
Well, half a dozen?
She might have. It seems to me 2 or 3 dresses.
Well, you went down from the attic then.
Yes, sir.
After you got through, is there anything more you want to tell me about what occurred in the attic?
No, sir.
Then we will go downstairs again to the next floor, and that will be to the room of Mr. and Mrs. Borden?
Yes, sir.
Did you go in there?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what you did in there. The other officers were with you?
We went in there and looked in his bedroom and also the room adjoining.
Which was the first room you went into?
The first room we went into was the bedroom.
You say you looked. What did you find?
Didn't find anything.
You found things in the room?
We found a bed.
Did you examine the bed?
Some.
Tell us what that some is.
Looked on the top of the bed.
You did not see anything on top of the bed.
Did not see anything.
Didn't see any hatchet on top of the bed. Is that what you mean?
We did not see anything on the bed.
I want to know in good faith if you saw anything at all.
That is all.
You were making a search. You 3 officers were making a search, and all you did on going in that bedroom was just to look on the top of the bed? Is that it?
On that bed, yes.
Now, how did you continue your search? What other active efforts did you make in the search of that room?
Looked under the bed.
And I suppose you did not find a man there, did you?
No, sir.
Did you find any implements under there that could murder anybody?
No, sir.
Well, go on with this search now in Mr. Borden's room.
And we went into the other room.
No, in this room. Is that all you did?
That is all we did.
Looked on top of the bed? See if I get it just right now. I do not wish to mislead you at all. You looked on top of the bed, like that, and looked under the bed, like that. Is that so?
We looked on the bed and under the bed to satisfy...
And all 3 of you looked.
I presume that they did.
Well, now go on, you 3. What next did you do?
We looked around the room.
Well, what was there in the room? What furniture?
Some chairs. I just don't recollect what there was in there.
Wasn't there some bureau?
Might have been.
Well, I know that does not help us. Was there a bureau in the room or a dressing case, whatever it may be called?
I don't recollect.
You don't recollect whether you opened any drawers of it or not.
If there's one there, we did.
If there was one, you did.
I told you I don't recollect whether there was one there or not.
Can you help us? Can you help us any about it? Can you tell us whether you did or not?
I don't recollect.
Then we will leave it right there. Well, now, Is there a closet in that room?
Yes, sir.
Did you go into the closet?
We did.
What did you find in it?
I couldn't just say what there was in it. Numerous things.
Any clothing?
I don't recollect.
Well, you said you kept memoranda, I think you said.
Not of that, I didn't.
So you haven't anything of that?
No, sir.
You didn't find anything there, any blood or anything whatever?
No, sir.
Then you went into the little room that opens out where the safe is?
Yes, sir.
And what did you find in there? Anything but the safe?
Found the safe in there and some clothes on the wall.
The safe was locked, wasn't it?
Yes.
Tried it?
I think we did.
All three of you there?
Yes.
Well, now what examination did you make of that row of dresses hung on the wall?
We looked at them as we had the others.
Same way you did the others?
Yes, sir.
You say you looked on top of them and looked underneath them? Is that all you did?
Just looked at them.
That is all the examination you made?
In that room.
Well, then you passed out. Was Bridget all the time there, or had she left you?
Bridget was somewhere around at that time. That is, was up on that floor.
Well, did she stay there, or had she gone downstairs?
She was upstairs.
Now she had the keys that let you into the attic rooms?
Yes.
She had the key that let you into Mr. and Mrs. Borden's room?
Yes.
And did she lock the door when she came down?
Yes, sir.
Then you went on down the stairs after that. And where did you go?
In the cellar.
Then you went down cellar. Now, before we stop in the cellar, I want to ask you to tell me if you didn't find the doors through the house very generally provided with locks?
Yes, sir.
In all the parts of the house?
Yes, sir.
Things were more than usual. I mean, more than is usual in houses that, kept locked.
I think about all the rooms had locks.
There was nothing extraordinary in the fact that Miss Lizzie's door leading out in the front hall had a lock on it?
No, sir.
Or that the door leading into the guest chamber from her room was locked?
Nothing extraordinary about that.
And nothing in the fact that the door leading from her room into her father's room was locked?
I should say not.
There was a hook on her side and a bolt on his side?
Yes.
That is so?
A bolt and a lock.
There was a bolt?
And lock.
And that was on Mr. Borden's side?
Yes, sir.
There was a hook on Miss Lizzie's side?
Yes, sir.
And on the other side there was a bolt and a lock?
Yes, sir.
So that by raising the hook on her side, a person could not go into these rooms in the rear?
No, sir.
And Mr. Borden's door had a lock to it, or a bolt, perhaps both.
That is the same door. Oh, the outside door?
Leading out into the back stairs.
It was locked, yes, sir.
Do you know whether there was a bolt and a lock too?
I could not say now.
But wherever you went, you found that all the rooms, all the doors were very securely provided with locks.
Yes, sir.
That was the character of the house, wasn't it?
It was.
It even went up into Bridget's room.
Yes, sir.
And touched all the rooms in the attic, what?
Yes, sir.
Now we will go down cellar, if you please. You three went together?
Yes, sir.
Now tell us what you found there this second time. Whom did you see and what?
Mr. Mullally, Officer Devine, and Dr. Dolan.
Mullally, Devine, and Dolan?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
There might have been other officers down there. I don't recollect.
And what were they doing when you got there, the second time now?
Looking around in the cellar.
Did you see the axes and the hatchets then?
I did.
And were they doing anything with them?
No, sir. They were still on the cellar floor.
They were standing down there on the bricks with the handles leaning up against the partition.
No, sir. They was on the floor.
Lying right flat on the floor, and there were these four, the 2 axes and the 2 hatchets.
Yes, sir.
Was there anything else there at the time? Any other things there at the time of this character?
That was all.
Well, then what did you do?
Stayed down there a little while and looked around and talked. Looked at the hatchets and axes again. Then I asked Mr. Mullally where he found those axes and hatchets.
I don't care to go into the full conversation, but you may state that because I asked you about it before.
He stated that before.
Yes, but I don't want to go on to general conversation. You stated that before, that is correct. What then did you do?
He showed me where Bridget got those.
Yes, around in that middle room, just as you have said. What did you do then?
I went out and went around the building outside directing men where to go.
This was the second time?
This was the second time.
Not the first time?
No, sir.
This was the second time.
This was the second time.
Am I right in recalling that you said you went out in the yard after the first time and told the officers where to go?
Yes, sir.
Then did you go out the second time and tell them where to go?
I told them where to go. Where they had been sent.
The second time?
Yes, sir, the second time.
After going down the second time in the cellar, you went right out in the yard again to give directions to the officers?
Not to give directions to the officers.
To receive reports?
As they came to me, yes, sir.
Very well. Did you go back into the cellar again?
I was in the house and in the cellar at different times.
No, after that, did you go into the cellar again?
Yes, sir.
What time?
Might have been nearly 4 o'clock.
Well, you mean that it was near 4 o'clock to the best of your recollection.
Yes, sir.
Who went with you that third time?
I could not recollect that anybody went with me.
You went alone. Was anybody in the cellar when you went there the third time?
Yes, sir.
Who?
Officers.
Well, who?
I don't know.
You have about 150 men on the police, I believe?
Yes, there were 125.
125, to be exact. Then it is necessary, rather, to limit the number. They were not all up there. Can you help us any? This is important. I want to know who was there.
There were so many officers there that I cannot think at the different times that I went into that place, cellar, who the officers were.
Were there so many that third time that afternoon of Thursday? You are now talking about Thursday afternoon, you understand me?
I understand what you say.
On that Thursday afternoon, the third time, were there so many that you cannot tell me anything about them?
I don't say there was many officers in the cellar.
Well, that is what I am after.
I say there were so many officers around about there and in the cellar and out as I was that I cannot tell who the officers were.
No, and I do not ask you to now, but do you recall, can you help us at all, whether there were any officers in the cellar that third time you went down?
There were.
And you cannot tell how many?
I could not.
Now, what did you do that third time down there?
I do recollect now.
Well, tell me.
Putting it in that way.
Tell me.
We pulled over.
Who is we?
The officers, Mr. Mullally, Mr. Harrington. I couldn't go on and say any others.
Those two. We'll take that. Now, what did you do then? This is the third time?
Yes, we looked in back of the wood that was in the cellar piled up.
Which room was that in?
That was in the middle cellar.
That same one you have spoken of?
Yes, sir.
Very well. What else?
And into the other cellars there to see if we could find any trace or any other axe or hatchet or instrument that might have been used in the murder of these two persons.
Did you find any?
We did not.
You did not?
No, sir.
Did you make then, you three, a thorough search in that middle cellar then?
We searched satisfactorily to ourselves at that time.
And didn't find any?
Didn't find any.
Well, did you go out and then come into the cellar again?
I might have done so.
Well, I know, but help us a little. Help us all you can.
I think like enough I did. I came in there with the marshal.
Well, some part of that afternoon you found something else, you told us.
Yes, sir.
Well, that is so, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Now, which time did you find that something else?
Well, hadn't we better know what it is?
Well, he seems to know.
Well, perhaps the rest of us would like to.
Is there any doubt about it? I'm on cross-examination now.
I only
I
suggested
don't want to keep you in the dark at all. That is not my purpose. Where did you find that?
Mr. Robinson indicates the handleless hatchet.
The afternoon of the 4th of August.
Well, I know. But at which of these visits in the cellar?
The second visit.
Why didn't you tell me before when you went on to tell me about the second visit? Why didn't you tell me that you found this?
You didn't ask me.
I didn't ask you. You didn't know that I was trying to find out all you did in the cellar at each of these times down there. You didn't understand that, did you?
I have already stated when and where I found that.
Of course. You didn't understand, and we will leave it like that. Now, you found this the second time?
Yes, sir.
Who were there when you found this?
Officer Mullally.
Anybody else?
No, sir, not with me at the time.
And this you found in the middle room, as you told us, in the same box near the chimney.
Yes, sir.
And right very near this ash pile.
Some few feet from it.
In the same room where you understood at that time that Mr. Mullally had taken the other two hatchets from.
Yes, sir.
In the same box?
In the same box.
And this was in with other tools, I think you said?
Yes, sir.
What sort of tools?
Pieces of iron and I think a chisel, and I don't just recollect what the things were.
Speak a little plainer now so we can hear you. Who took this out of the box?
At that time?
I suppose when you found it.
I did.
Mr. Mullally, you say, stood right by?
He didn't say so.
I didn't say that.
Well, do you say that?
He was there and showed me the box where the hatchet was taken from.
Did you take it out in his presence?
Couldn't recollect whether he saw me take it out or not. He may have done so.
Now, this room was a very dusty ash room, wasn't it?
There was ashes in the room.
I know that. There was a pile there?
Yes, sir.
Of several bushes. Wasn't that room generally a dusty room like an ash room around an old chimney and around an old furnace?
The ashes was confined to just a certain space.
What space was it?
Perhaps 3 or 4 feet.
You are now speaking of the pile?
Of the pile, yes.
What I mean is, wasn't the brickwork on that chimney and the box and the things there generally covered with ashes?
There was dust on them.
It was an ashy old place, wasn't it?
There was ashes or dust upon the chimney, yes.
Well, a good deal of it, just like any ash cellar, wasn't it?
Yes, sir, there was an accumulation of dust.
Really, the things in there were covered with ashes, generally speaking.
With dust.
Well, ash dust and ashes?
Might have come from the ashes.
You don't see anything improbable in things getting covered with ashes in that room where there was a pile, where they were thrown down and dumped, do you?
No, sir. Naturally, the dust would fly.
Had you noticed whether either of the other 2 hatchets were covered with ashes?
The smaller one was somewhat dusty.
When you saw it first?
Yes, sir.
But you didn't see it until after the other officers had got that out, had that out in the washroom on the brick floor.
I did not.
Now about this one, the claw head.
That one apparently had been cleansed.
And that you said before, did you?
I did.
What did you see about it? Is it in the same condition now?
The hatchet?
Yes.
No, sir.
You have had, or someone connected with the government have had it all the time since, haven't you?
I presume they have. I haven't had it.
Not in person?
I haven't seen it, only in the examination.
But Professor Wood or the marshal or somebody connected with the government side?
Yes, I suppose so.
Now, how is it different now?
A spot on the handle.
The spot isn't there?
I don't see it.
You thought you saw a spot there before, or did you see one?
When?
You thought you saw a spot there before, or did you see one?
When?
At the other hearing before the district court.
Yes, at the time I examined this at the house.
You don't see the spot now.
I don't.
Was it a large spot?
No, sir, it was a small spot.
Dirt or blood?
I couldn't say. It was a red spot.
It was a red spot. Was it paint?
I can't say, sir.
Did you form any opinion about it?
It looked to me as it might be blood or paint.
Or anything else of that general color?
Yes.
How large a spot was it?
Might be half an inch long.
It isn't there now?
I don't see it.
Was it on that side of the handle?
I couldn't say which side of the handle it was on, but it was on the handle.
So far as you know, Miss Lizzie hasn't had any chance to take it off since you found it.
No, sir, she is not.
You're sure of that?
Yes, sir.
She hasn't had any chance to do it?
No, sir.
Now, how else does it look different?
Not any further than this, that at the time when I saw it, it was damp.
It was what?
Looked damp. The hatchet looked to be bluer than it does now, and there was one red spot up on the blade.
Rust upon it?
I think it was.
You think that was rust? Well, is there now?
No, sir. What there is now is all of a darker color.
Well, has anybody been scraping or washing that since you got it?
None that I know of.
But the rust spot is gone, isn't it?
No, I think not. The color isn't the same.
The color of the hatchet?
The color of the spot.
Where is it? Point it out, please.
I think it is about there.
Right about there. Do I do it right?
Yes, sir.
Well, there has apparently some little sharp mark been made there. Is that about where it is? You see a little mark as though somebody had taken a sharp tool and made a mark there.
Yes, sir.
That was probably been made for that purpose.
I don't know. I never saw it before, the mark.
Well, as you picked up these hatchets, did you get dust on your hands?
No, sir.
It was all off, was it?
I didn't put my hands on the blades, that is, to find any dust, that is, to take it off.
How were the handles?
The handles was clean.
No dust on that?
Not on that one, no, sir.
And this one?
None that I saw or noticed in particular.
And about the other tools in the box?
There might have been a little dust, of course, on the handles, as I presume there would be, as there was dust upon the blades.
Was there dust on the box, around there where these were found?
I didn't notice any dust upon the box any more than...
I mean the fine ashes.
No, sir, not on the sides of the box.
Did you notice any dust of ashes right around where the box stood?
No, sir.
Did you take out the other tools that were in the box?
I did not.
Did you see whether they were dusty or not?
I did.
Were they dusty?
They were.
They were all dusty.
Some dust on them, yes.
Was there any dust on this one, the one without a handle?
There was.
Where? What part of it?
All over it.
Quite a dusty old thing, wasn't it?
It was.
You are sure about that?
Very sure.
Ashes had been on both faces of it, what appeared to be ash dust or ash dirt.
Well, yes, sir.
All over it.
It looked as if it might have fell into that ash barrel.
It looked just as if this old hatchet without a handle had gotten into the ash pile.
It looked as if it might have been there to me.
Yes, exactly. And that little piece of handle was on there at that time, wasn't it?
Yes.
And that end there had ashes on it, just the same way as it indicates now?
Not so much as it had on the other end there.
Will you look and see? Which end do you mean?
On this end here.
You mean the end outside or the broken end?
On the outside. This piece here was new, apparently a new break.
Had ashes on it, hadn't it?
I didn't notice any ashes on the new break.
Well, you didn't notice at all, did you?
I did, yes.
Well, were there ashes there?
I don't think there was.
You don't think there were?
No, sir.
And yet this whole thing looked as if it had been right down in the ash pile.
Yes, sir.
And that piece was there.
I don't think the ashes that was there, if the ashes was there, was like the ashes that was on the blade of that hatchet.
Well, there were two kinds of ashes there?
No, sir, there was one kind.
Now, you say you don't think the ashes on there looked like the other kind of ashes. Now, I want you to describe the ashes that were on that end.
I don't say there was any ashes there.
Oh, well, do you say there were not?
By there, do you mean on the broken end?
On the broken end.
You don't say there were.
I wouldn't say that, but I didn't notice it because it looked like a new break to me.
Well, did it look as it does now?
No, sir.
Well, who has changed it?
The age.
Oh, it has grown old.
Yes, sir.
Are the ashes there now, in your judgment?
I don't see any, no, sir.
No ashes there?
No.
That was the 4th day of August, as I understand it?
Yes.
And you can see some slivers, that were split off on that side, can you?
I do, yes.
Were those split off at the time?
I couldn't say. This was then in the hatchet head.
So far as you know of your own participation, that piece stayed in the head.
It did.
And left your possession with the piece in it.
Yes.
And you didn't chip this off.
No, sir.
You don't know who did.
No, sir.
And you don't think there is the slightest evidence of ashes in that end, do you? Your judgment as a man, not as a police officer.
I do not think that is quite the proper way of addressing the witness.
I will withdraw it. I do not think it is. There will be no difference about our deportment here.
I don't see any ashes here.
Nothing there to indicate it.
No, sir.
Now, what did you do with that after bringing it out of that box?
I didn't bring it out.
What did you do with it?
I let it remain in the box after looking at it.
You didn't take it along with you?
I did not.
And you didn't take it out and lay it down with these others?
No, sir.
Did you show it to Mr. Mullally? Was Mr. Mullally there?
He was there.
Did you show it to him?
I can't say that I did. I think I did. I think he saw it.
Did he see you put it back in the box?
I presume that he did, sir.
At that time, the other 4 were standing out in the washroom?
Yes, sir.
You went off and left this in that old ashy box just as you found it, did you?
Yes.
You didn't do anything to it?
I did not, no, sir.
You said at the former hearing, perhaps you did here, that this one with the claw head looked as if it had been washed or scraped.
Yes.
Well, show us how.
It looked damp and had a kind of bluish cast and looked as though it had been wiped.
Well, was there anything else about it?
That was all.
Mr. Robinson indicates another hatchet.
Well, did that one seem to have been washed too?
No, sir.
That didn't appear to have been washed at all?
Oh, no.
No signs of blueness about it?
No, sir.
And no signs of scraping about it?
No, sir.
You are positive about that?
Very.
You looked at it so that you are willing now to swear to this jury that when you got it, that did not show the slightest sign of washing.
No, sir.
It did not. That is what you mean by no, sir. And there was no sign of scraping it.
No, sir. It was covered as already stated.
Covered with dirt and ashes.
Dirt.
Now, you this morning, having it called to your attention, swear that there were no ashes on that broken end at that time.
Not that I discovered.
Well, you looked, didn't you?
I looked, yes, and didn't see any.
Will you swear that they were not there?
No, I couldn't really do that.
You don't really do that.
No, sir.
Well, do you really say there were?
No, sir.
What did you say yesterday about that?
About what?
What did you say yesterday about ashes on that end?
I don't know that I said anything about ashes on that end. I said that the hatchet was all covered with dust.
Do you remember being asked by Mr. Moody yesterday? At that time, Mr. Fleet, did you observe anything with reference to the point of the break of the hatchet? Answer, the only thing that I recognized at the time was that this was apparently a new break. Do you remember that? And the next question, at that time, did you observe anything with reference to ashes upon the point of the break of the handle upon the wood where it was broken? Answer, there seemed to be ashes there like the other. Did you swear to that yesterday?
I might have said that, yes, sir.
Well, I know that. We can all guess. I want to know if you did.
I suppose I did.
Which time is right?
How?
Were you telling it as it was yesterday or as you tell it now, this morning?
I tell it this morning just as I saw it.
Then you didn't tell it yesterday as you saw it.
Well, I suppose I did yesterday as I thought. I may have misunderstood about the break. I understand this was a new break.
I will read the question again. At that time, did you observe anything with reference to ashes upon the point of the break of the handle upon the wood where it was broken? Didn't you answer that question?
No, not in that way. I understand that it was all covered with dust.
What?
It was all covered with dust, the hatchet, and that part there was a new break. There might have been dust on it, but I didn't discover it because it seemed to be as if it had been newly broken.
What did you say then? There seemed to be ashes there like the other, meaning the hatchet, of course. What did you say that for?
I don't know.
You can't tell, can you?
No, sir.
Can you tell any reason why you stated this in two directly different ways, once yesterday afternoon just before adjournment, and now this morning as quick as we can get it here?
No, sir, I can't.
Can't tell what you told those two different statements for?
No, sir.
Were they both true?
They cannot both be true.
Will you take your pick? Let us have the one you like best this morning?
Well, I will state just as I saw it that the hatchet was covered with dust.
We'll get down to the end of that piece of wood. That is what I am after.
Well, that was a new break, and I didn't discover any ashes, although there might have been ashes onto it, of course.
You didn't discover any at that time, you said, or did you discover?
I don't want to say that I did or that I did not discover because I am in doubt. This thing here looked like a new break to me.
I know, you keep saying that, but I am after the ashes on the break. Now, which of those two answers will you take, or do you want to make another one?
No, sir, I will take the answer. This answer. That I didn't discover or didn't notice any ashes upon the break.
That is this morning's statement.
Yes. While there might have been ashes on there.
Oh, are you going to put that in?
Well, of course I will. I don't want to make it any other way.
Well, I want to know really which answer you want, or whether you want to kind of split it. Can I do anything to help you out?
I don't know if that will do, whether there was ashes on there or not. I will take it that way.
Now that is the way you will leave it.
The rest part of it was covered with ashes, and that was a new break.
Now I understand you leave it in this way. That yesterday you said there were ashes on there just like the other, and this morning you said there were not ashes on it just like the other, and you do not want either of those answers, and now you say you don't know whether you looked or not.
That is not what I said.
Well, is that what you want to say?
I want to say that I don't know whether there was ashes on that broken part or not. There was ashes upon the blade.
Well, we understand that.
And all over the hatchet.
But you know I am talking entirely about that end, that break.
I do now.
And I do not want you to tell me anything about the condition of the hatchet part, because we have talked about that. Now I want you to tell me again, and I will quit this at once, how you say the end, which you call the broken end, was when you looked at it.
It was a new break, apparently.
I understand that. How was it in reference to ashes?
I didn't discover any ashes on it that I remember of.
You put it back in the box.
Yes, sir.
When next did you see it?
I think it was in Taunton.
What?
In Taunton.
You saw it in Taunton.
Yes, sir.
Where?
Before the grand jury.
Was it never down to the marshal's office to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you know who took it away from the place where you put it?
Only as I've heard.
And who was that?
Officer Medley.
Who is Mr. Medley?
An officer. That is, he is now an inspector at the police department of Fall River.
Is that in the line of detective work?
Yes, sir.
Working up cases?
Yes, sir.
He is specially detailed to get proofs, look up proofs, is that so?
To do special police work, yes, sir.
He didn't testify at the preliminary hearing, did he, before the district court?
I believe not.
You think not. You are pretty certain, aren't you?
Yes, sir, I think I am.
Was this hatchet and that broken piece produced at the district court in Fall River?
No, sir.
Sure about that?
I never saw it. I never knew of its being produced.
Did Mr. Medley have it at that time?
I could not say, sir.
You don't know where it was by information. Don't you know where it was from the 4th of August down to the time when the grand jury sat?
No, sir.
Hadn't heard at all who had it?
I heard before the grand jury sat.
That Mr. Medley had it?
That it was in the possession of the marshal.
Of the marshal?
Of the city marshal, and brought to him by Officer Medley.
In Fall River?
In Fall River.
Do you know whether or not it was turned over to Professor Wood for examination?
I do not.
Don't you know that it was there in Fall River before the hearing?
I know that it was not.
You took this and put it away.
Yes, sir.
Because you thought you might want it afterwards.
Yes, sir.
You looked out for that.
I did.
And you thought that is the claw hammer.
Yes, sir.
You thought that looked as if it had been scraped and washed.
Yes, sir, that is right.
And you took that and put it away around behind the boxes.
Yes, sir.
And you produced this with the others, or somebody did, produce this with the others at the district court.
Yes, they were there.
When you examined this without the handle and the stub in it, on the 4th of August, you did not lay this aside anywhere, did you?
No, sir, only in the place where I found it.
Well, you do not call that laying it aside?
No, sir.
You put it right back.
Yes, sir.
You testified, as you have said, at the district court at the preliminary examination. You have said so?
Yes, sir.
When Mr. Adams and Mr. Jennings were there of counsel for the defendant.
That is right.
I will recall you to that particularly. Did you, in your testimony there, say one word about this handleless hatchet?
No, sir.
Did anybody tell you not to say anything about it?
No, sir.
And when you were asked what you found down there of any implement that might have been used for the murderous purpose, did you say that you found anything else?
Other than those?
Other than the 4?
No, sir.
And you didn't say that you did not find anything else?
I did not find them.
Didn't you say in that testimony that you did not find anything else?
No, sir.
What?
No, sir.
Are you right about that now?
Yes.
No mistake about it? I want to have you be sure. Here are the 4.
Yes.
And you were asked in regard to them, and you didn't say you failed to find anything else.
Oh, I might have said that, and at the same time, I'd found that thing and put it back again.
What did you say to that court for, under oath, that you failed to find anything else when you did find something else?
Yes, but I left it where I found it.
You did not find it then simply because you did not carry it away?
I didn't take it away.
Oh, you understood that question to be that if you didn't take it away, you didn't find it?
I saw it as I saw other things.
Well, I want to know now if you didn't tell that judge in that court that you didn't find anything else in the cellar.
I might have done.
I want to know if you did not.
I don't know. Perhaps you can show me.
I can't tell you, but I am going to tell you what you said yourself.
Very well. Let me have it.
I pray your honor's judgment.
That won't do, I know, I agree. We get warm sometimes when we do not mean to, your honors. I beg the court's pardon, as well as the witnesses. Let me read. What did you find down in the cellar? I want to see if this is correct. Answer, I found Mr. Mullally, Mr. Doherty, and afterwards, Mr. Dolan. I found Mr. Mullally with a pair, these same axes and hatchets on the floor in the washroom. We searched down in the cellar. We searched the cellar even after that to see if we could find anything that might have been used other than what was already on the floor, but failed to find anything. Question, what was it that was already on the floor?
Wait a minute. I submit, if your honors please, whether there should not be some more reasonable limit to the amount of reading before the question is answered.
I will take your suggestion for this time to save time. You heard the first answer read. Did you make that answer?
Finding these on the floor?
We searched down the cellar. We searched the cellar even after that to see if we could find anything that might have been used other than what was already on the floor, but failed to find anything. Did you say so?
I might have said so.
Did you?
Well, I will say yes.
What was it that was already on the floor? The 2 axes and the 2 hatchets. Did you say so?
Yes.
Now, what reason had you for telling that court that you did not find this hatchet?
None other than the hatchet, as I found it in the box, placed it there again, being all covered with ashes. I didn't take it away. The handle having been broken at that time, I didn't think, if it is allowed to go in, that it was used for the purpose of killing.
Notwithstanding it had a fresh break on the handle?
Exactly.
Notwithstanding that?
Notwithstanding the fresh break.
And notwithstanding the dust on it, as you have told us yesterday, looks different from the dust on all the rest.
Yes.
Notwithstanding all there was about being different from the rest, you did not think it was worth talking about.
That is the way I looked at it. That is the reason I left it there.
This is not what I asked you. Why you left it, but why you did not testify about it.
Because I didn't think it came into play.
You didn't think it did?
No, sir.
Do you know whether you went in or out the front door of that house that day?
I don't remember.
Don't remember?
I know I didn't go in that way.
And do you know whether you saw anybody else pass in or out that door, the front door?
Yes, sir.
Who?
I think Miss Emma Borden, together with the trunk.
That is when she arrived at night?
Yes.
But I mean earlier in the day.
I don't remember that I did.
Well, there were in and about the house there all along that forenoon or morning. There were people, quite a number of people, were there not?
That morning and afternoon.
Yes, sir, and going up and down the front stairs?
Yes, sir.
And whether or not the door was bolted or whether anybody unbolted it or bolted it, you do not know. The front door.
Not that I saw. I examined it myself. That was all.
I did not quite catch the last.
I examined it myself and found it locked and bolted.
What time in the day was that?
It was very early in the day. That is, I should think noon time.
But there had been other persons there before, quite a number?
Oh, yes.
So whether it was done by them or not is more than you can say.
I cannot say as to them.
You spoke of finding a pail near the foot of the stairs. I think you did as you went down, didn't you?
I did not. There was one there. I did not testify to that, I think.
There was one there.
There was in the wash cellar.
There were clothes in it?
There were.
It is agreed that that pail contained the napkins, which had been worn within a day or two by the defendant, the ordinary monthly sickness. And as to that fact, that is all we propose to put in. We do not care to go into the details. It is also agreed that the sickness ended Wednesday night. That is all, Mr. Fleet. Can you fix more definitely, Mr. Fleet, than you did yesterday, the minute when you arrived at the Borden house the first thing in the morning?
Well, the only way that I can fix the time is this. That my wife was sick at the time of this murder, and Dr. Tortola was attending her. When I got home, the doctor was with my wife, and I took off my hat and coat, it being a warm day, was in the house for a moment or two and asked the doctor how she was getting along.
I believe that is not necessary.
After being there perhaps 2 or 3 minutes, the doctor then looked at his watch and says 25 minutes of 12. He says, "It cannot be that time, can it?" And I says, "Yes, sir, that is about right." And immediately afterwards, within a minute or two, the doorbell rang and I went and saw what was wanted, and Mr. Stone's man said that the marshal...
Leave out the conversation. You had a call. Make it short.
Then I immediately put on my hat and coat and jumped into his team, or buggy, and went to number 92 2nd Street.
Without going to the office?
Without going to the office.
About how long after the doctor took out his watch and said it was 11:35 before you got away from the house?
Not more than 2 minutes.
How long in your best judgment would it take you to go from there up to the Borden house?
I should say about 5 minutes or less.
So that you got there about 11:45?
I call it about that.
This is as near as you can fix it?
That is as near as I could fix it. Looking at the time, 25 minutes to 12.
Do you recall that you had fixed it somewhere differently at the other hearing?
Yes, sir.
What did you say then about the time?
Between 15 minutes of 12 or 20 minutes of 12 and 12 o'clock.
May I ask whether this is it? Question. Have you any idea when you got there? Answer. Yes. I think somewhere between 11:45 and 12 o'clock. Perhaps 10 minutes to 12.
Yes. That is just what I gave it.
That is more likely to be right?
I should say 10 minutes to 12 o'clock.
You would not then make any substantial change in that?
No, only it would not take me more than 5 minutes to get to the Borden house.
You knew all about that last August, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
It might have been then, according to your best recollection, not earlier than 10 minutes to 12.
It might have been, but I think 15 would strike it right as I look at it.
We will leave it there. That is all, sir.
Mr. Robinson completes the cross-examination of Assistant Marshal Fleet. The Lizzie Borden trial Day 5 featured Christine Daniels as George Robinson, Matt Campbell as John Fleet, Keith Morrison as William H. Moody, Ian Morrison as Andrew J. Jennings, Kevin Morrison as Chief Justice Mason. This production was produced by Lion's Den Audio Theatre. I'm your Day 5 announcer, Ron Newcombe, and from everyone at Lion's Den Audio, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay safe.